Welcome back for the fourth episode of Flesh and Blood on a Budget. So last week we actually managed to get back-to-back armory wins. So currently we're sitting at a 10-1 with the deck. I'm honestly really surprised that it's going so well with the deck. But I think at some point we're going to just play against a fully tuned deck and a good pilot, and we're just going to lose. But let's see how far we can go. Last week we also managed to get a really big pull in the form of the Diamond Amulet. The budget is going to help us a lot, I think. So let's get to the upgrades this time. So I pulled from last week where I noticed we actually pulled one free scene from the Arcane Rising pack, so we got a refund on that. The Yo-Ho-Ho, the same card of the week before that. And the Sky Skimmer. And on top of that, we also pulled the Diamond Amulet. Angry Bones. That one's actually already sold to a local of mine. He instantly buy it. But if you're new, this is an example how you could just pull something good and not a player that needs that card. He can just come and buy the card and then or trade you for some staples you need. So yeah, we have a nice budget and let's get to the upgrades. So I had a tough time thinking what to buy. I was thinking about a dual threat package with another 1 for 5, dual threat, and so on. After testing it, it was okay, but it wasn't like that great. We lose a lot of the good blues we're playing currently. So I just chose to stay with the Age of Autumn build since we get to play like real blues, and even though we can't Kodachi lock our opponents, we can play a better late game with better blues. So I'm going to be saving a little bit of that money to play the Progress. This week I'm also playing like a cheaper armory, so I'm going to have like about half of the money to play the Progress, I think, after this week. Yeah, so we are going to be adding a triple erase phase to the deck. Erase phase is just a disruption card. Sadly, it only blocks for 2, but it helps a lot. For example, last week, if we play erase phase against Dash or against Syndra, it would be pretty good. So that's why we're going to be changing the humbles for the erase phases, since this is like the better disruption card. Yeah, so this armory we're only going to be playing 3 rounds. Probably going to share a first place if we go 3-0. Yeah, let's see how it plays. Yeah. So first round is going to be a mirror match against Edge of Autumn Ira. So pretty important thing to know is we need to be playing around the arms. We know how important it is to hit with a Vengeance card in order to get our equipment, and we can try to get all the value we can from our arms, like activating whenever we know that our opponent isn't going to be able to block it out.
Right, so first of all, I really want to apologize. While recording, I didn't notice there was a lot of glare on the cards. So at the end, a lot of cards aren't really recognizable, but I will do my best in order to narrate what happened in the games. So again, I'm really sorry for that. The first game is another IRA with an armory deck with some upgrades. But in this game, we can see how more upgrades are better than some power cards. So I want to die roll, let him go first. He does a 1+5/5 and leaks 1 damage. And my follow up isn't great since I can only go 1 to 3 and heal 3. Still getting 7 value from my hand, but it could have been way better. His first real turn, he kept all his cards in his hand, so he had 5 cards to work with. Starting with a red Vitrion Thorns, but I was prepared with a Faithful Scene from my arsenal. Following up was an Edge of Autumn and a Red Sick Vengeance. I block with 1 card from my hand in order to try to avoid him flicking, since if I block with 1 card from hand, he can't flick without being afraid of a secondary react. But if we take into account that I block with a card from my arsenal, then a secondary react wouldn't be that possible, since usually you want to bluff with the card from Arsenal for later. And his turn finishes with a Snatch. He already had an Arsenal, and he could have been IPing himself on 1 if the Snatch hits, but I didn't wanted him to Snapdragon the Snatch into throwing like 2 more attacks, so I just blocked it with my Enact Vengeance and 1 of my equipments. My turn is just a typical volley turn with Sirens, threatening 8 damage and healing 1 damage. Then in his turn, he has a Vengeance Never Rest turn. And my head is pretty much gas, so I don't really want to block this. I want to take the damage to enable our good old friend, the Scar for Scar. Uh, so he swings to the Vengeance Never Rest for 4, but I don't block it. I think the best way to play this turn would have been swing with the Vengeance. Since I don't block it, he could easily flick his weapon, re-equip his weapon, then banish the Vengeance, swing again with the weapon, swing again with the Vengeance, threatening another 3 damage, and then if he hits, it threatens another 3 damage on top. So he would have been able to play the Vengeance Never Rest 3 times, but instead he just plays the Nip at the Hills, giving it +1, and having like no resources. He was really focusing on just playing it 2 times, while he would have been able to play it 3 times, I think, if he plays his turn right. Since we're one life behind, you know what this means. Scar time. I start with a Scar into an edge into Sick Vengeance. Since he didn't block the Sick Vengeance, he gave me the green light to flick my weapon, since his only out would be into D-Reacts. I finished the turn with a Sirens, dealing a total of 17 damage and healing 1 life.
He starts his turn with a blue Between Thorns and searches for a Whirlwind Mist Blossom. It was actually for 4, we both forgot about the Between Thorns hit, and I just blocked 3. I actually had blocked 4 with my chest, and I actually didn't use the chest at all, so it's okayish, I guess. And but if I block 4 and he uses his arms to push the Mist Blossom to 5, it's a bit risky since after that he loses his weapon and he can't guarantee a re-equip since it's not a vengeance card. I just do standard 1 into 7 play an Arsenal D-React, and he takes all the damage to do a Whirlwind Mist Blossom turn with a Nip at the Hills, but he doesn't drop preables, so he just gets an Arsenal. But looking at the footage, I noticed that the Mist Blossom wasn't active since he needs to hit two hits in a row. So a lot of things went unnoticed regarding the Mist Blossoms this game. Yeah, so I think we really need to be more careful about that. I tried to do a Vengeance Never Rest turn, but since my opponent actually knows the deck, he obviously blocks it, and I blocked the turn before for Legacy Fikaru, so I couldn't like push it above 5. And to be funny, it's really cool to pair both together, since you can go to 6 when your opponent only blocks 5, playing around your arms, and depending on what you draw, you can do like a really cool turn where you get multiple Vengeance Never Rest triggers. But since I had like no follow up for the Vengeance Never Rest, he just IPs himself on 1, and yeah, basically loses 1 card. His follow up is like Command and Conquer, but then I had a Sigil in my arsenal, so I wasn't afraid of the Command and Conquer for 7. I just blocked with a card I didn't need it and activated the Sigil, basically blocking 6. My turn wasn't that great either, since I had a Scar for Scar in my hand, but I had way more left than my opponent. The Scar was just dead in my hand, so I just pushed 1 to 5, trying to chip some damage. Okay, now he comes with an Enact Vengeance for 7. I had the react in Arsenal, so I wasn't afraid at all. He plays Legacy Fikaru from the Arsenal, and I double D-react that. I think he could have been able to activate his arms, getting just like 1 extra value. Since he's behind, he needs to be like greedy, and there's actually no way that I'm going to be able to have like a 3rd D-react at that moment. So yeah, I think that's like a small misplay in there, but at that point I actually also think that the game is too far gone for him. So from here now we just start playing like a small value game, but since I have like such a massive life lead, I can take more damage than he does just to try to close the game. And that's what I do. I just start taking a bit more of damage and try to push more damage than he does, since I have just like a lot of life difference, and I just finished the game with a flying kick turn, going over the edge and finishing the game. So now the last round is going to be against Dio. As we know, Dio likes to play aggressive, can get lucky hits from the top, meaning a boom grenade. But Dio can get fatigued if we draw our D reactions in a good moment, and disruption is pretty good, meaning the newest addition to our deck in the form of Race Phase is going to be really good against Dio, since that takes her ability away from play items, since the items are not mechanologists, and she can't boost anymore since she needs to boost mechanologist card in order to get go again. So this is a rematch against our finals from last week against Dio. This time I won the die roll again, and we can see that the Dio changed her equipment sweep, since due to the lack of the Achilles Accelerator, she actually lost last game we played against. So I don't really have like that crazy start like last time, pushing like I think 7 damage managed to push. But this time I just tried to filter my hand and gain 1 life from Sirens, and try to take all the cards I can from Dio, since in the Dio matchup every card Dio has counts, since I can probably fatigue her this game as well. So it's always tricky to play against Dio, since she any time of the moment in the game she can just get a boom grenade off the top, and she pushes a lot of damage with the boom grenade. But if I don't have like D-Reacts, it's really hard to block her. So I'm just trying to preserve some life, and I know sometimes Dio just like goes one attack into play an item Arsenal pass, and that way Dio just like goes further, like prepares like 7 card hands for the next turn. And this time he just got like a Teclocore from the top and does 2 attacks and passes. And now I got like the newer cards, the newest card that we got in the form of the Race Phase. The Race Phase was like pretty huge. In this case, the Race Phase just ate his whole equipment, and we also got like a card from him. Since like the Race Phase came for 8, used the between turns hitting last turn. So last week, I didn't drew like a lot of D-Reacts, and this week I actually drew like a lot of D-Reacts. So I can easily block like a lot of his attacks. He starts with a heist, and I can just easily block that with my headpiece, and later I can just block like more attacks with the react. So with the help of the D-Reacts, it's like so easy to just try to block all these breaking points from Dio, and especially if she has like a boom grenade, I can just wait for the attacks. If she has a boom grenade, then I can just D-React to the boom grenade, avoiding the boom grenade to hit. So I'm just trying to play fairly conservative, not leaking a lot of damage, but I already use a lot of my equipment, so I'm trying like to play the turns where I have disruption. Like in this case, I have the second Erase Phase, and Erase Phase is pretty good card against Dio, since on hits basically takes all her ability to boost away. But like still, she can just block with like 2 cards, play 1 item, and pass. And our off turns aren't like that bad, since we have like sigils to heal up, and also the Sirens give us a bit of healing, and we can go a bit wide. So it's not that bad if the Dio just like makes a setup turn. We can actually do something about it. At some point it got like pretty scary, since the Dio had 2 boom grenades on the field, but actually like the flick like doing a lot of work. Just being able to block 4 and then blocking 5, it just helped me prevent all the boom grenades from hitting. And yeah, so it's like honestly a really large comparison. Like it's a big difference if we compare like last week's games against the Dio, where we actually were barely drawing D-Reacts, or the D-Reacts weren't being as effective as I would like. In that case, like in this case we just drew all the D-Reacts, and of course we can just block everything out from the Dio. I mean, this game was honestly just crazy. I could just block everything, and honestly, like at the end, I could have just play a bit more conservative and block 5 with the Sirens at the blue card I had, but I just wanted like to play them. But yeah, at this point, like the Dio was already fatigued, and I was still like at 20 life. So that was honestly like crazy. Like the D-Reacts do an insane job against Dio, especially like I say, like blocking the breaking points, preventing like the boom grenades on reaction step from popping off. Just does a lot of work. I just want to say, like, I am not actively trying to fatigue Dio. It's just the way the game goes. I try to play the value from my deck. So if I can block well in that moment and I can deny the effects from Dio, then I just do that. And if I can throw like some disruption, like for example erase phases, I just throw it. It's not like I really want to block everything that Dio does, since I'm pretty sure if I do that, now, our second round is going to be against Verdance. As we know, we really want to stay healthy to avoid getting combo in our turn, meaning we need to be at least at 9 life plus, since Burn Bird has a 9 life range if combined with the Waning Moon. And the Oasis Respite helps us a lot in order to stay healthy and prevent arcane damage. So he was Zyro, he lets me go first. I just swing the edge of autumn because I wanted like to filter my hand and lets it through. And I just push 1 damage, so already winning on turn 0. So he just goes like a cute turn from Strike Go again into Ring of Roses and just leaks 2 damage. So in my turn I wanted to get like really aggressive. I swing my Edge of Autumn into a Sick Vengeance. And he didn't block. I thought he would like have the react, but suddenly tragedy happens. I activate my arms in order to push it to 6, because I thought, oh, he's only has 1 react, so I'm going to get it through. But nope, he has a second react, and we lose our weapon for a good chunk of the game. And then I just finish with the Sirens, and I'm really sad because I have no weapon right now. But honestly, this is a really good teacher moment for all the viewers to see what I can do when I lose my weapon. So losing my weapon this early in the game, it's really tragic, because my opponent can just block really well and can leverage like her blocking capabilities, just like to screw me over. So now we have just like a couple of turns where I was actually breaking, and my weapon wasn't like that bad losing my weapon. So I just tried to throw a couple of attacks, and yeah. So luckily I have like Bittering Thorns and zero cost attacks, and since I was like breaking anyway with like full reds, it wasn't like that bad. So I was trying to put like a Legacy of Ikari in my arsenal, and then wait for a Vengeance card, since that way I can just like push the like a Vengeance card over what my opponent is expecting, and that way I can just like regain my weapon. But it's like really tricky, since if I throw like a Sick Vengeance for 4, my opponent can just block with 2 cards from hand, blocking 6 in total, and with the Legacy of Ikaru I just push it up to 5. So that doesn't really help. And with the Sick Vengeance, it's the same issue. So sorry, with the Knack Vengeance, it's the same issue if my opponent has like a D-React. He just like really fucks me over with that. So I'm just trying like to throw a couple of attacks, getting some chip damage all the time, and waiting to like the setup that I just said. So like my 2 cost attacks lose value, unless I can play with like a Bittering Thorns, which luckily, as I mentioned, it happened quite a bit. I drew like a decent amount of Bittering Thorns. Bittering Thorns is also a nice card to combine with like the Neck Vengeance, so that way we can go like for 7 and we can push it to 8 with the Legacy, and that way we can just like regain our weapon at any moment in the game. So I just trying to play towards the goal I just mentioned, like to play a Sick Vengeance, and a Neck Vengeance with a Legacy of Ikaru, or just being able to hit. So at this point I have lost like about 8 value, I think, without me having my weapon, and my deck was getting a bit thinner. But luckily we had like the last ditch efforts. If push comes to shove, I can just try to use those. Yeah, so I wasn't drawing like that hot, especially since I need to pitch like a Neck Vengeance a couple of turns before, in order to have like a turn. So I was just like waiting for my second or third copy. I was trying to pair them with a Bittering Thorns, but I wasn't drawing them, so I just had to pair the Bittering Thorns with like another 2-cost card until eventually I got the Enact Vengeance and I had the Legacy of Icar in my arsenal, so and he just blocked 6 and had no direct. So at that point I just recovered a weapon. Somehow I had like life parity up that point, so I wasn't like feeling that bad about it. So now with our weapon back, we can just start playing the game once again. So we're just throwing 1 damage into 7 damage and blocking all we can. The Oasis Respite being actually really huge as well, helping us to stay healthy regarding the arcane damage. So especially since with 1 blue we can just prevent a fully Ether Pulse life with and Waning Moon. So that's how we stay just healthy in the game. And since we're only 6 life behind and we still are fully equipped, it means we're actually not that behind, since our opponent has like no equipment at this point. Now here comes a really cool turn. If you remember, I mentioned in game 1 that you could be able like to chain multiple Vengeance Never Rest since you re-equip the weapon and you can attack with the weapon again. So I start swinging with my Edge of Autumn into my Vengeance Never Rest, and my opponent only blocks 5. So that means I can just activate my arm equipment, and I had also Legacy of Ikaru, and with that I just drew an extra card, and I'm able to swing again with my Edge of Autumn, and again with my Vengeance Never Rest. So I was able to go and play the card 3 times this game, and that was honestly pretty awesome. Now I was honestly pretty sure that my opponent didn't block like the second Vengeance Never Rest, so since like blocking that one would be basically blocking 6 with 1 card. Since he didn't block that, I was pretty sure he was about to throw like a Felling of the Crown, so I was bracing myself, but nope. Instead, he actually wanted to clear his arsenal from a ponder he drew before. He had a blue Emeritus Scolding, so he pushed like 4 arcane damage of like 3 cards. Like honestly, that was, I think that was like instantly game losing, especially since I have AB2. I can just like prevent 3 of that arcane damage. So I was just feeling like pretty healthy, and he just like refreshes his ponder, and I'm honestly not so sure what like the plan was at that point, especially since he like took so much damage in order to clear the arsenal. So now we're at a really healthy life lead, and we're especially since we're outside of Strider's range. So Verdance can kill you like from 9 life if you have like no open resources. So you can like Striders into Burnber and Waning Moon, dealing 9 damage total. So if we are like above that threshold, that's pretty good for us. So now I have like another Vengeance Never Rest turn, and my opponent like learned this time, since this time he blocked 6. But luckily I had like the follow up in the front of the Turn of Tempo. So Turn of Tempo is a card I don't really know what like exactly to think about the card, since it's like decent but not like that good. You know, since it's like cost 5, it doesn't really combine with the math of the deck, since we want like to be throwing 1 into 7, and the Turn of Tempo is like 1 into 6, and we have like 1 open resource that we can't really do like a lot of it, and the Turn of Tempo isn't like a really reliable way of go again, so I don't really know how to feel about that card. So both our decks are starting to run like pretty low, but I was honest, I didn't care because I knew we had like the last ditch efforts to push like damage at the end, and I didn't really need them at the end since my opponent was blocking a lot and he got fatigued because of that. But I was like, I wonder how the game would have gone if I had like my weapon. Later he said like he had to block more instead of 2 in place because he wanted to deny my weapon. So I wonder how the game would have been instead if I didn't like lost my weapon, and we both play at our full potential. But yeah, honestly, I was pretty happy with the results. I think he like last time we played, I mentioned he should probably play evergreens. He put the evergreens in his deck, but he left them in his sideboard. I think the evergreens would have been like really good in the matchup. But yeah, again, probably the last ditch efforts would have been like enough to close the game. The magic of addition.
Whoa!
Price pack today. Somehow the shitty deck keeps winning, and I don't know how. So no Riptides. Oh, okay, this is actually really nice. I needed one more, so I have played it. Well, so honestly, I'm genuinely confused. I expected to be getting some wins with the deck, but I honestly didn't expect to dominate this hard. So going like back to back to back armory wins. So this week was like a bit smaller, and the player quality isn't up there. So I'm pretty sure I have like 300 more elo than every player I'm playing against. But still, like the only loss until now being against a Verdance where I had like no agency since I had like no sideboard to play against. It's generally pretty unexpected, but as well we're dodging like the bad matchups. Like we haven't played like against a full Florian, like full Florian with a skilled player, and the Syndra we played against was like breaking. But yeah, otherwise I'm honestly really surprised. But yeah, so I think everyone should be able to just grab the deck, put a couple of cards, and be giving some results with the decks. I'm really excited going into Proco season, because like those are my locals, you know. So I'm actually going to be playing them at the Proco season. So if the deck is performing this good, like I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to at least make a top 8, if not like top 4. And who knows if I just take it all. But I would need to be playing against Gravy, and I think I want to do like a better sideboard against Syndra. Oh yeah, thank you for watching this week. Check the deck list in the description. If YouTube hasn't authenticated me yet, just check a comment. I'm going to be posting the deck list there, and please be sure to subscribe and follow me on X for more Flesh and Blood content.